We were speaking about Passover. Now we're going to speak about Moshiach. And there's many things we already discussed about Moshiach. And before I start, I forgot to ask, does anyone have any questions they would like to raise?
Would Mashiach be declared king?
Absolutely.
Okay.
That's actually his title. He is called King Mashiach. In the Hebrew, Melech, which means king, HaMashiach, the King Mashiach. Absolutely. He's considered, from the line of David, the ultimate and final Davidic king, which means king from the line of David. As I mentioned last class, I think that the way we're doing it, which is slowly, really has this advantage that if each week we keep talking about this topic, like bit by bit by bit, it should be changing the way we think. Like Mashiach should be a much more normal, I don't think normal is the correct word, but just like accepted concept in our brain, because we keep coming back at it in all these different ways, so it just seems more and more normal. Yeah, this is part of Judaism. This is from foundational belief, and we know a lot about it. And the more we know, we're more fleshing it out. We're more feeling it. We're more touching it. We're more tasting it. We're more experientially understanding it for sure. It's very special that we have this opportunity for it to make sense in our minds. Has anyone seen that process themselves, that it makes more and more sense in their minds because we keep talking about it from all these different angles? Yes, Sabra's nodding.
Yeah, it seems more concrete, and I think about it during the week.
Thank you, Sabra. That's the word I was looking for.
Oh, okay.
You got it. That's exactly the idea. It's more and more concrete, more and more something as a reality in our brain. So Sabra saying yes, Linda saying yes. Let's continue. We were discussing the idea of how do we know who Moshiach is, and we explained that Maimonides actually lists the job description, right? We have the criterion listed and we learned them. He has to be a king. He has to be a direct descendant of David and Solomon. He has to be as godly and invested in serving God as David. He has to repair the breaches in divine service. He has to fight the wars of God. If you're looking at something that has those criteria, you accept him as the potential Mashiach. That if the time would come, God would reveal himself to him and send him. And if the time doesn't come and he passes away, it doesn't mean you were wrong in your assumption. It's just that the time didn't happen then. But if the time happened, you picked the right man. Now, this whole idea of criterion, of searching, of finding, the job description, the Mashiach, who is a king and a direct descendant of Solomon and David and everything else we listed, so learned and observant in serving God and dedicated to repairing the breaches in divine service and fighting God's wars. This whole list, this whole job description, this whole want ad, so to speak, is only necessary now before the complete revelation of the redemption. As the three Jewish sources, the Bartanura and Rus, the Sechemed, and the Chansab Sof, as they write, when the ultimate moment comes, the ultimate moment might be 0 hour, or the ultimate moment might be the moment, far better, that we bring Mashiach with our merit. God is going to give the green light and send this person, whoever he is, wherever he is. And then the temple is going to descend. Mashiach is going to lead all the Jews back to Israel. And at that point, no one has to open up Maimonides and check, does this guy fit the bill? Let me see. No. It's going to be obvious to the whole world. Who is this Jewish leader? Who is the Mashiach? We need to say, I have to find him. I have to find that person. But when we have the complete revelation of Mashiach, we don't need to find him. It will be obvious to the whole world. We have this cool opportunity to find before the rest of the world joins the bandwagon and everyone knows. Because once he's revealed, it's no secret, the entire world, all 8 billion mankind is going to know. But we, because we know the Maimonides, we understand the process and we know what's happening now. So we could already look and see and identify and find before the revelation. Because once there's a complete revelation to the world, once God gives him the green light and says, go, redeem, as, again, the Bartanura on Rus and the Steichemet and the Chassam Sofer, all right, well, then the whole world's going to know. Then it's no thing, oh, I know who the Messiah is. Yeah, so do we all. So this cool finding him actually applies only and uniquely now. And why do we need to bother? Why should we bother looking for him and finding him? As I'm saying, when the time comes, either through our merits or through the cosmic clock, he's coming anyway. Why do we need to work to find the one who's coming and I don't have to do any work? When you find, this changes you. And this makes Moshiach so real. Additionally, it's important to identify because we have an obligation to accept Moshiach. And if you know who he is, because you know Maimonides' signs, then you could find him, you could identify him, you could suppose it's the right person, you could receive him, you could accept him. And this is part of the process of bringing Mashiach, is identifying him, accepting him. So if we didn't identify him, how will we accept him? If we don't accept him, this is a critical piece in the process. And as we mentioned, throughout the ages, there were always people that either said about themselves or other people said about them that they were the Mashiach, like Judah the Prince, and Daniel, and Yanai, and Menachem, and Shiloh, and Chizkiah. We do see great Jewish leaders who really are identifying themselves or identifying others as Mashiach, because it does make such a difference in the reality of Mashiach and in our ability to accept Mashiach, which is a critical part in the process. To whom will Mashiach be revealed first? To those that identify and accept him as such before he's publicly revealed to the world. When he's ruling before his public coronation, those are the people that will first experience the revelation of Mashiach. Now, a person could say, here we're discussing Mashiach. We're talking about accepting Mashiach. We're talking about identifying Mashiach. We're talking about pulling out your Maimonides or the list from Maimonides that you know, and looking around and finding Mashiach and accepting him. And that's so important because it makes it real. That's so important because you're fulfilling a critical piece in bringing Mashiach, which is to accept him. But a person could say, how could you connect to Mashiach if he's not here yet? If he isn't completely revealed, which obviously he's not, because if he was, I wouldn't be sitting in Chicago, then how are we connected to him if we don't see him revealed? Any thoughts on that?
Would the rabbis in Jerusalem be the ones that the high, like the major rabbis, and the chief rabbis, I think I want to say, that they'll, check his lineage, that he's indeed a descendant of David and Solomon? Would they be the first?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
Not necessarily. But the question I'm sort of saying is like, how can we connect to a person before he's revealed as Mashiach? Any thoughts on that as we've been learning this?
Isn't there listed what the Mashiach will be when he comes? Isn't there a list of what he will do?
Yeah, but I said once he's revealed and we know what he's doing, then we don't have a question. The world's not going to have a question. When you have the king who's, ushering, who's bringing down the temple from heaven, who's bringing all the Jews to Israel, who's removing all the evil in the world, well, everyone's going to know. That's not the question. We're talking about now, connecting to Mashiach when the world doesn't see him doing his activities. There is, of course, him doing his activities. Once he's doing his activities, all mankind will know who he is. Nobody's going to need rabbis to identify him. Nobody's going to need the list from Maimonides. Everyone will know who he is. It's now before when we need the list from Maimonides and we need to search ourselves to figure it out. So, in a sense, the more we study and discuss Mashiach, as we have been for all these weeks, the more real Mashiach becomes, as we all see, and the more we connect to it. We connect to the concept, we connect to the person. And as we were saying, in every generation, there's someone waiting in the wings. And if the time comes, like we said, our merits are 0 hour, our God is revealing himself to him and sending him. So our obligation to find him is because we know he has to be now accessible. Because if there wasn't a Mashiach around accessible, then what would happen if we deserve Mashiach? A baby would be born and we'd have to wait 30 years? So when we're looking at Maimonides is saying a king from the house of David, who's so righteous, who repairs the breaches, who fights the wars of God. Oh, well, no, not JC. He was disqualified by that list. Not Shabtai Tzvi. He was disqualified by that list. We have the ability to connect through Maimonides' guidance before we see him, almost like an unborn child.
Mm-hmm.
That if someone's expecting a child, even sometimes people, before they get married, they have a connection to a child and that motivates them to get married. But for sure, if someone's expecting, if someone's pregnant, they can have a deep relationship to that child that they haven't seen ever. That's a fetus.
They talk to the child. They
Absolutely.
pray.
Absolutely. Absolutely. People can do that because there's definitely that connection, even though even though you haven't seen the child, but of course there's that connection to the child. And as we're saying, when we can connect, when we do have the connection, it makes Mashiach much more real. It makes it more happening. And it pushes you more to actualize Mashiach by your action. And as we said, spiritually, it's a huge power to bring Mashiach. Called lekabel, to accept, to receive Mashiach, is a huge power in the process of bringing Mashiach. Now, obviously, there are many tools, many strategies in bringing Mashiach. I envision it like a door with a lot of locks. And there are a lot of different locks that could open that door. And they all work. You don't know how many times you have to turn the key to get that lock open. But they all work eventually. Giving charity is a lock that brings Mashiach. If you give charity with the intention to bring Mashiach, there's many, many. The two biggest ones are accepting Mashiach, as we're discussing now, identifying him, finding him, and accepting him as Mashiach, and learning about Mashiach, which is exactly what we've been doing for all these weeks. Learning about Mashiach is a direct road to bringing Mashiach. Accepting Mashiach is a direct road to bringing Mashiach. And then, as I'm saying, there's many other roads, like, for example, giving charity with the intention to bring Mashiach is a very powerful tool to bring Mashiach. There are many, many locks. They all work. We don't know how many turns the key has to go in that lock to make it work. But when it happens, everything we all did is part of that process. Like if you had this massive, massive, thick tree, old tree, all these rings, and everybody in the world is trying to chop down this tree, and everybody tries and works and nothing doing. It's not budging. It's such a huge ancient tree. And finally everyone just gives up. And some little person comes along. He doesn't look especially big or muscled. He has a little axe. And they're like, you're going to try to chop down the trees like everyone else tried. Why shouldn't I try? They're like, sure, go for it. Ha, 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 ha. Strongest man in the country couldn't do it, and this little weakling's going to do it? It takes this little man with his little muscles, takes his little axe, gives a little knock. They're like, whoa, was this black magic? Like, how in the world did you chop down this tree? And he said very simple. I knew all the strongest men have been working on chopping down the tree. So I knew it was probably so close. It just needed one more push. So I gave it a little push, and the whole tree collapsed. And that's really a great metaphor to understand what we're doing, our participation in the process, what we're doing to bring Moshiach. Because what are we doing in the end of the day? We're very small people with very small muscles. And since the beginning of time, and people have been trying, which means it's so accessible now. Because since so many people put so much effort into it, people that have much greater spiritual muscles than we do, yeah, our muscles are very strong. But guess what? Who says it needs to be big muscles? Who says it has to be strong muscles? It just has to be. And maybe one of us little people with our little muscles will be the one to make it happen. Not just for ourselves personally, for all mankind forever. When we're discussing Mashiach, of course, a critical component is the temple. We're talking about the temple. There's the idea since the destruction of the temple some 1900 years ago. Of course, the physical temple was destroyed and the spiritual energy of the temple went into exile and is found with the leader of the generation in exile. But when we have the complete revelation of Mashiach, the temple will descend from heaven and descend to Mount Moriah with some input from us because we want some slight level fusion of the work above and our work below. Like some say that Mashiach's going to put on the doors or other ideas given on what could he do already that's completing the task that was basically fashioned by God, and now we have a little help from man. So not just that God should be elevated, but that man should be elevated as well. Mashiach comes. It says that God and Mashiach will go to every single man and woman and child, and thank them for what they did to bring Mashiach. When God comes to us, obviously, he knows we could have done more. And obviously, we could have done more. But God's not focusing on that. Mashiach's not focusing on that. Mashiach's going to look at us. And Mashiach is going to thank us for what we did to be part of the process of his revelation. Because even though God is completely capable, and obviously we are not very capable, but still, God has made himself and Mashiach dependent on us. And therefore, God and Mashiach are going to thank us for whatever we did. Whatever we did. Could you envision God thanking you for what you did? But what you did was very important to him. What you did was part of this. And it's such important. God is thanking you. Thank you for doing it. And when that happens, each one of us is going to probably feel sort of good and sort of bad. On one hand, we're going to feel so like, wow, I did something that God is thanking me. This is like unbelievable. I'm awed. I'm humbled. I'm feeling so unbelievable that I did something that God and Mashiach are thanking me. At the same time, I think we're going to feel a little bit, I wish I had done more. I wish I had done more. Now that I know how valuable what I did was, now that I no longer have the opportunity to do it, I wish I had done more. I wish I had done more. And that in general, that feeling in general of, I wish I had done more, we are actually going to experience by Mashiach. We will experience that feeling. It says that when Mashiach comes, we will long for the exile days. Not that we're going to want to go backwards. Not that we're going to long for all the troubles and pains and sorrows that we left behind. But we're going to long for the opportunity. Because we're going to see now by the complete revelation of Mashiach the enormous opportunity of every one of our actions. God personally thanking me for what am I doing? What did I do? Something I did something I'm unaware of? No, I'm aware of what I'm doing. But I don't think of it as very big. I don't think of it as very important. I think of it as very, very small. But God looks and he thinks it's very, very big. So when I'm going to look at my activities through God's eyes, so to speak, through God's lenses, I'm going to be, oh my gosh. I had so many opportunities to do such valuable things. I didn't take care of all of them. Some I did, 100%. But I didn't take advantage. And I'll feel like I wish I had taken more advantage. This is really linking back to our work. Like we could ask the question, today is Sunday. What if we knew with prophetic spirit, because we're so holy, that Monday morning Mashiach is coming to the world, absolute guaranteed prophecy. Whoa, we'd all be like partying on the streets, for sure. Lubavitcher Rebbe would be like, oh my gosh, we have to wait till tomorrow morning? You know how many hours and minutes and seconds there are between now and tomorrow morning? You know how many millions of people and God and Mashiach and all the souls above are in pain waiting until tomorrow morning? What are you waiting for? Got to make it happen now. And the truth is, even if we reach the point where, hey, no matter what, Mashiach is going to come on his merits, like very soon, like in 12 hours. We'd rather have a Mashiach that we bring. A Mashiach that we bring has much more value to us than the Mashiach that God brought because he had no choice. Okay, so I think it's very appropriate that we're doing this now in this month. This is the Jewish month of Nisan. Our sages say in Nisan, we were redeemed and we will be redeemed. Meaning, and this goes back to what I was saying before about Passover, that this is now the energy of redemption. So, of course, we can and must and try hard to bring Moshiach any day. But in Nisan, this is like the time. Nisan means redemption. Nisan also means miracles. The root word of Nisan is miracles. So it's a time of miracles. It's a time of redemption. It's a time when we have a special power, as I said before, to escape our Egypt, escape our limitation, choose well. Trust me, I already have chosen the Egypt I want to get out of. And we all want to get out of this massive Egypt of exile. And recommitting with that Passover energy of freedom, of liberation, of yes, we can do this. Is this really, really, really living with the times?